Hello, beautiful souls. Today's podcast is for anyone who's ever felt alone. And I believe that includes just about all of us. Hi, I'm Dave Hime, and this is the Gentle Mastery Podcast. I'm bringing this to you at the end of 2025 because I have become inspired to manage my podcasts a bit differently. Today, I'm without a script, I'm without notes. I'm simply going to be speaking from my heart about this topic of loneliness versus belonging, feeling alone versus feeling connected. And I hope that by the end of this podcast, you'll understand my personal understanding of these concepts and why they exist. Also, how these concepts are going to transform in 2026 as we lead to 2027 and the new paradigm that we'll all be living in. If you're not familiar with the upcoming paradigm of 2027, you can check it out in this video that should be showing up now as something you can click on here on YouTube. If you're not watching me on YouTube, the previous video about the 2026 and how reality is all going to change will also be linked in the show description. Today I'm coming to you from my own sense of my consciousness signature. It's that thing that I have been talking about most of this year. It is the way I've combined Maslow's hierarchy of needs, human design, the gene keys, and David Hawkins's map of consciousness. Before I go any further, let me just say thank you. Thank you for being here, whether this is your first episode or you've been listening and watching all throughout 2025. It has made such a difference to me that you are here listening. I have spoken with so many of you, and I'm very touched by the value that you've been telling me that you get from these podcasts. And 2026 is going to be the year when we follow down the path that the world of consciousness, the world of rising consciousness, is bringing us all to. But before we get there, I just wanted to have this conversation with you regarding what's possible simply with yourself, because of my experience yesterday with my inner self, higher self, and inner child. Inner self. So here's what I've been struggling with. I've been struggling once again with lack, scarcity. You know, my story is one of having relatively ongoing sense of financial struggle. And here's why I've been inspired to talk on this subject. Recently, I have been working with a coach, a wonderful guide and mentor who helps her students, her clients, the people who listen to her podcast. One of the things she helps us do is get more connected with our higher selves through becoming more connected with our inner child. And in my case, I've done a bit of inner child work before. My entire life has been a journey about connecting with my higher self, and that's the connection that I've been able to establish even more deeply since I began this journey in 2022 that you've been hearing about. These two aspects, which we all have, we have that version of ourselves who could be any age. an inner child doesn't necessarily mean that they are incredibly young. It can be somebody who you simply need to have a conversation with from 2 weeks ago. But the important part here is that we recognize that there is wisdom inside of us and there is hurt inside of us. And it's our job as conscious humans to work with both that wisdom and that shadow in order to inform the decisions we make on a day to day basis. My inner child also happens to be my best higher self advisor. And that's 4-year-old me, the version of me who knew that we were all connected, that we're all part of one giant ocean of universal love energy, that each of us is simply a wave, which is an expression of that ocean. You've heard me talk about this before. And who was confused as a 4-year-old, being in the world and not understanding why it seemed like nobody else had this knowledge or this understanding. And whenever I run into shadow aspects in my day to day life, when I am smart about it, when I remember that I have this option to have this higher self, inner child conversation. Now, your higher self and your inner child may not be the same person. For a lot of people, it's not. For me, it is. But when I do remember that I can have this conversation, I can guide myself through whatever the rough spot is in my life by leaning on this inner wisdom, by finding out what it is this inner child needs. Then that's when I know once again who I am. I'm once again grounded in my own spirit, is the best way to talk about it. And I had one of these experiences yesterday, and that is what has led me to talk about loneliness, feeling alone, connectedness, and belonging. My story has been one of relatively ongoing belief that I'm financially struggling. And while that's sometimes what my reality tends to show me, what my higher self knows is that I'm always taken care of. But when I find myself in that place of lack and scarcity believing, then it's very difficult, as probably many of you have experienced, to escape the emotional orbit of that fear, that panic, that distrust that things are going to be okay. And yesterday I was inspired to check in with my inner child to find out if there's something that he had to tell me about why I was in this emotional upset once again. Because I've done a lot of work and I have changed a lot of beliefs and I have manifested over and over again. Yet, while my history is one that says I'll always be taken care of, and while my belief system is one that the universe always provides for me, and that's absolutely been the truth of my life, there is this ongoing belief that sometimes creeps up. And it had been creeping up yesterday. And I actually know why. It's because I hadn't been in alignment with some of my own personal values in the previous days leading up. And so What happens is our bodies or our spirits or our minds or our emotions will always give us something to learn, something to pay attention to when we're not living closely to our values, when we're not aligning or in integrity with. And I'm not saying that I'd done something horrible. I'm just saying that, maybe I stayed up later than I normally would, um, or done something else that I know was not in my own best interests. And that was taking me on a spiral down into this sense of lack and this sense of scarcity. When I checked in with my inner child, what he had to say to me is he felt like he'd been left alone. He felt lonely. Not abandoned, that would be way too volatile of a word. And that's not a word that he used. He said lonely. I feel lonely. I feel alone. And he wanted to have a conversation, and he just wanted to have somebody there with him, have me there with him to help him feel connected, to help him feel like he belongs. That's what we all want. That's especially what children want, to feel like they matter, like they are loved, like they belong. And me at 4 years old, I had a awareness of being connected to everyone and everything. And also an awareness that other people weren't acting as though they had that awareness. So because others weren't acting that way, I felt disconnected. I felt set apart. I'm not the only person in the world who's ever felt set apart or disconnected. And so this sense of aloneness, what my inner child told me yesterday was, we are given this sense of aloneness so that we can appreciate connectedness, so that we can appreciate the meaning behind connection and belonging. And right now, people in the world tend to connect only with others who share their same values. There is an us versus them sense in the world. So you belong to your tribe, or you belong to your echo chamber, or you belong to your sphere, whatever those things are, however it is that you talk about it, that's where you belong. And then the people who don't belong there are so not you. They are different. They are other. They don't belong. They are not connected to you. But the truth is, we are all connected to each other. And this is the truth of 2026 and 2027. This is the truth that we will not be able to escape. And that is that connectedness of all people. And those who don't accept that truth, those who don't embrace that truth, will find a sense of aloneness that goes deeper than any feeling of loneliness you've ever had before. Because the connectedness that's available to us as we raise our consciousness, as we connect with each other, as we see beyond these tribal instincts that have been running us for the last 400 plus years, that connectedness will be bliss. That connectedness will feel like heaven on earth. That connectedness is the one that we're all here for, the one that my 4-year-old still remembers. When I get disconnected from the part of me that remembers connectedness, that's where scarcity comes from for me. That's where my lack of belief in myself and in the universe comes from for me. It may be where it comes from for you too, which is why I wanted to talk about this today. Here's what you can do. Very simply, understand what it is you're feeling. Start, as I always want you to start, with self-awareness. Just allow yourself to know, hey, here's what's going on with me. Here's what I'm actually feeling. You don't have to understand why. You just have to acknowledge it. You just have to accept where you are. Be aware of where you are and then accept it with a ton of compassion for that. You have to love and have compassion for yourself. This is where connectedness begins. This is where loneliness ends. When you connect with yourself. My story from yesterday, I was spiraling into scarcity. I felt alone. I felt disconnected. And it was when I chose to reconnect with my higher self, which is also my inner child, that I started feeling connected again. When I got reconnected to the truth of connectedness that my 4-year-old knew as being simply our way of being in the world as divine beings inside human bodies. So it's that self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-compassion, as I always say, that starts you and me and anyone else down the road to reconnection. First, reconnection with self, then reconnection with the world. And that is the purpose of today's podcast. I'm here to reconnect with you. You are not alone. Whoever is listening to this, whoever is watching this, you can always connect with a version of yourself that knows your truth. Your consciousness signature can help. Listening to this podcast and other podcasts can help. Discovering these aspects about yourself, accepting that you are more than your thoughts, more than your beliefs, more than your emotions, more than your physical self, that you have a higher consciousness, that you are that higher consciousness, and stepping into that, that's our truth. And that's our path for 2026 here on the Gentle Mastery podcast. I wish you all a beautiful new year for 2026, and I thank you each for listening. Peace.